I'm Katie Walsh. I'm a film critic here in LA, and I also host a podcast about Miami Vice, the movie. We talk about Collateral a lot, and it is my distinct honor, and it's very surreal to say, please welcome Michael Mann. Thank you. I love watching this movie with a crowd, and with a crowd of Angelinos as well. I know you watched the film again. I mean, it kind of plays a little bit like a comedy at times. I know you maybe worked with Tom a bit to kind of draw out some of the humor.
The humor is kind of dark, but it's inherent in the characters. And so, I mean, I didn't set out to say, let's draw out some humor. But it's a dark humor. To me, it's totally fitting with with the whole show, the whole picture.
Before the screening, you were talking about how fun it was to shoot this movie. So shooting in LA, on all these different locations, all entirely at night. How many nights was it?
We shot for about, I think, 67 days, and which I love shooting at night because there's something special about going home from work when everybody's first going to work. I don't know what it is. Or you wind up having breakfast at the pantry. But the big thing for me was the enchantment of nights in LA and what we all experienced, particularly in '04 when this was made. But the city's gotten much more crowded now, and it wasn't as urban as I tried to make it look. So I embellished the sense of the urbanism of downtown and everything else. But there's something poetic about it, and that led me to want to see into the night, which is why we shot this on video. So this is the first photoreal film that's shot on video as a result of 3 months of R&D before we started in pre-production. But it was only for one reason, and that was to be able to see into the cities, which which we all know from when the marine layer comes in and what used to be nothing but sodium vapor lights bounced off the bottom of these clouds at about 1,200 feet. It created this kind of surreal landscape.
So I know you had been wanting to make an LA film at night that was kind of contained. Were you waiting, A, for the right script, and B, to have the technology to shoot it like that?
So
were you waiting to have the right script and technology?
The script was there. I did a lot of revisions on the script, not enough to, Stuart Beattie wrote a brilliant story, and the structure of the story is exactly as Beattie wrote it, but it's actually for kind of a Woody Allen kind of cab driver in New York City. So I transplanted it to LA, and then wanted Jamie Foxx. But the attraction for me in doing it is I'd come from doing Mohicans in '92, Heat in '95, and then Insider, and then Ali. So I've been making very large-scale narratives, one after the other. And so the idea of the compression of this particular story, and it was kind of like refractions inside of a crystal or something, to be able to have everything be only in one night, but even more importantly, to have these two characters who are opposed to each other to function as kind of the agent of the realization that they go through and we go through of the other one, and the kind of transference of awareness. So the whole thing was kind of, for me personally, it felt very Jung-like, and that's why I wanted to There's another picture I was going to do that I controlled, and I decided not to do this one because And also, there's only one costume change, which was fantastic.
Well, this is my favorite movie of yours after Heat. Obviously, Heat is number one. For me, Collateral is number two, because of Tom Cruise. And it's a great LA movie. So it feels to me like Tom Cruise and you have a similar sort of work ethic and drive and approach to preparation. So what was it like working with him? Were you aligned on that front?
Tom's fantastic. I mean, I don't think I've ever worked with any actor who has, there's one exception to this, I don't think I've ever worked with any actor who is not thrilled to go on the same adventure. And to keep doing it until we got it, and then there's that great satisfaction when you get it. But no, Tom's terrific. Every actor's different. I saw Jamie in what's it? I'm sorry, like in the television show that he was first in.
In Living Color.
Right.
Yeah.
And I became aware of him when he was playing the character of the older woman, and in that role, and I saw that this is playing this for comedy, but his projection as a character was so powerful. It led me to get really interested in him as an actor, and that's why I cast him as Boondini Brown and Ali. And then we became very close, and then this thing, then Collateral followed. But Tom has got a fantastic work ethic. He's indefatigable. He's got a great sense of humor. One of the particular things about him that's so interesting is how balletic his movements are. He moves brilliantly. And there's a couple of scenes, one of the shootouts with these guys in the alley. There's no cut in that. That's Tom, doing it. And then particularly in the Korean club, when he's sliding across the floor, and I still look at it, and I'm still impressed how fast he is. And, so he really moves brilliantly, and he's got a great sense of humor. And I particularly like the work he does when, like in Tropic Thunder, when he's playing somebody very removed from Korea.
Well, it's interesting that you say someone removed from who he is, because he's playing a villain. He's playing against type in this film,
Yeah, and I was going to say, it's not really, to me they're characters, and it actually, it doesn't, I don't view a film in categories or subcategories of genres or anything else. I mean, to me, he's playing a character in a drama, and it's actually kind of, you have this story structure of Stuart Beattie's, which is, I think, terrific, and then, then it's really propelled by character, and
Well, I know you wrote a very extensive backstory for Vincent, a tragic backstory of him being raised in foster homes and institutionalized. And I'm curious, how Tom responded to that backstory that you gave, and also because you can see it in these little moments where his eyes kind of flicker, he kind of pauses or messes up a little bit. I think in the Collateral commentary you call it a paroxysm of regret or something like that. But can you talk about how you sort of interacted with Tom and this backstory of Vincent's?
I do the research, and we do the research, and we do it together into who would this person be. It's not derived from other films, but who would this person be in fact? And he could have access to people like this and what their backgrounds are. And in his case, the biography that we put together is his mother died, his father took it out on him, his father probably beat him. He has probably somebody with a very low self-esteem and a very strong ego, which makes him very dangerous. And he's evolved the big nowhere solipsistic system of putting order to things. That's where he's coming from. Then we did a very extensive training in terms of what would somebody like this actually do in real reality. So on any given day, our second AD might have gone to the gym, which he does on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and as he's going back to his car, suddenly he feels somebody slap him on the back, and that's put a post-it on his back, turns around, it's Tom. Tom says you're dead. Because he's been stalking this guy for 2 weeks, trying to find out where he's going to assassinate him, and this is the perfect place to do it because, because there's one entrance, there's 3 exits, and this is it's 6:45 a.m. So we did all that stuff as well as the thing that I started doing on Heat, which is a lot of training out at the LA County Sheriff's Ranges. Very, very secure, very safe. But a lot of training with with live ammunition and actually being able to do everything that he does in the film.
You might have awakened something in Tom to, start doing these intense preparations and stunts, all of his own stunts, that he does on Mission Impossible now.
No, he does all his own stunts, and including jumping over the desk and falling down and getting up and keeping going. It's quite good. It's quite impressive. And then Jamie and I, every time we have any excuse to get out to the racetrack, we do. So we had to take these cabs. We built 17 cabs. And so we're driving cabs around the Willow Springs racetrack. And then Jamie and I spent a lot of time with cab drivers. And I had, when I was at the University of Park, working my way through school, partially I drove cabs, I think 2 summers. So there is something about you tend to drive with a flourish, number one, but also there's you do have these encounters with people, and you don't know who's going to get in your cab next. So it's kind of in the gene pool.
So when you were casting Collateral, did you immediately think of Jamie for Max? Because he's also playing not really the type that you would expect him to play. He's playing kind of a timid, kind of dorky guy, and he's like the coolest person alive, Jamie Foxx. So what was it about Jamie that you could see him for Max?
That's a pretty tough question because it was such a natural choice. And it was such a different character for him to play somebody who was so opposite to who Jamie is, which particularly why it's attractive to Jamie. It's also why it's very attractive to me to take an actor and put him in a context that's foreign to him, because I know it becomes an adventure. And people do their best work when they're on something of a frontier. So to basically play a character who could have, if it was 19th century, he could have walked out of a Henry James novel, who's inhibited and who has a failure and invents impediments to taking action. And Irma Hall as his mother, I think, is terrific.
Yeah. I love the coyote scene where they see the coyotes. And I was wondering, what's going through their heads at that moment in time? It feels like a moment of self-reflection, but it also feels really pivotal.
For me, the point is nothing's going through their heads until the moment in time, and then there's these triggers that happen to us. I think visually or the environments, instead of circumstances, things are on our mind, and we suddenly do a deep internal dive into a moment of introspection. And it just takes all of our attention for that moment. And we see it twice with Tom. We see it once in the after he shot the Shabaka Henley in a jazz club, and then also a moment with the Coyotes. And I had that experience on Fairfax in Santa Monica at about 1 in the morning, and these 2 coyotes were walking across the intersection as if they still own LA. And it's such a lot of us have seen it as kind of anomalies, but it's that's where it comes from.
To me, I was wondering if Tom is kind of, or if
I should also, I'm a huge fan of Chris Cornell and Audio Slave. And,
it's a perfect song, that moment.
Yeah.
I have also a question about Miami Vice. This is just to satisfy my own curiosity. You did Ali with Jamie, you do Collateral with Jamie, and then you do Miami Vice with Jamie. What was your motivation to return to Miami Vice, to remake the movie? Because Jamie says it was his idea. JP said it was his idea for you to do Miami Vice.
It was his idea. He talked me into it. The story in Miami Vice isn't really from Miami Vice. The story is just a plain story. I could have made the same story without calling it Miami Vice. It is the idea of what happens when, what are some of the pathologies of long-term deep undercover for real in very dangerous circumstances for people who go under 6, 7, 8 months, you know, and I started getting very interested in that. And one of the rules is you're never supposed to have a romantic relationship, and 2/3 of the time people wind up in some kind of compromising relationship. So that was really the genesis of what I wanted to do, and then I put that into the context of Miami Vice. But so that's really where the impulse.
And Jamie said, I'm playing Tubbs.
All right.
Jamie said he's playing Tubbs. It wasn't his idea that he wanted to play
Yeah.
There's such a propulsiveness to this film, the pace, you get swept into the story right away. It also happens in Miami Vice and Ferrari, I think. It's a reflection of kind of the experience that these characters are having as well. Like Max gets swept into this story, this mission. Vincent seems like he can never stop moving. He's like a shark. He has to keep going forward. So I was just wondering if you could talk a bit about your approach to time and how that works. These stories that are like constantly moving forward and sort of you're either with them or out or not on the wave at all.
It's less about that than it is, I think, about you know what you know. We make movies. One makes movies about, or at least I make movies about things that fascinate me and that interest me, and that issue of here we are, as Tom says in the movie, on a in a blink of time on a speck among hundreds of billions of galaxies, and what are we doing with this moment? What is the future? How does one live life? So that becomes something that, for me anyways, is probably not all the time. So I think about this stuff, and then you end up making a movie about it. You know, time doesn't really enter into Ferrari very much, except that there is this true history that in these 3 months, it became kind of a fractal of these very unusual, very unique lives, and all of who both he, Laura, and Lena Lardy had been, and all that they were going to become, all collide in this, you know, this 1 3-month period in 1957, and that just came from the idea of doing something about it. Troy Kenny Martin wrote an absolutely brilliant screenplay. Revised a little bit, but all the gold in it is from Troy. And every time I thought of perhaps putting it down, I'd pick it up again and get to page 2, and I'd be, you know, hooked all over again. So that's the.
Well, congratulations, and it must be nice to share it with the world. You know, finally to have people seeing it and loving it. We're gonna take some audience questions. So I'm sure I see Guy waving his hand. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about mapping out the fever scene and how it worked for the nightclub. You have 7 different elements happening at once, but the time is continuous. So I'd love to hear about your prep for that.
So the question is about mapping out the fever scene, 7 different elements, and the time is continuous.
Fever starts as a club in Koreatown we found during location scouting, and with Janice Pauley, who's done location scouting for me, like 9 pictures, and it's about 1/6 that size, and so we basically took all of the core concepts and then expanded it and built that as a set. And choreography is choreography. All choreography is built on a story. And so it has to be whether it's dance or whether it's, you know, an action scene like this. So it has to have a story, and you know, the story's obvious there. You know, for instance, trying to kill him, there's everything comes together, and so then, in my own internal thinking about it, when all these component vectors are going to all collide into one place like that, then what is the scene that precedes that as we're all heading to the same, this conflagration, as we're all heading to this nexus. And then that is why there's a moment in time where there's an introspective moment with the coyotes and even the guys who were Felix's people who were in the car loading the guns. There's also a reflective moment there. So that's but the choreography itself, there's no 25 words or less answer to that. So I would mention that at the end of that, Bob Deemer, who's the cop who shows up at the end and pulls him out of the thing, he's here someplace.
You know who else is here?
There are many stories about him which I will not relate to.
That's our actor, that's our actor.
I'm retired, so no.
Speaking of Club Fever, the sound design in that scene is amazing, and the supervising sound editor, Elliot Koretz, is here, so.
Yeah, Elliot's here too.
Yeah.
Great job.
Another question. Okay, right in front.
I love the groundedness of those kind of films. It's nice that it's not just action all the way. It's nice balance of drama. And your shooting style, always so grounded. You empathize, you always empathize with characters. Do you have a process when you're mapping out your shots for choreography to kind of keep that empathy in the characters?
So the question is about the groundedness and the empathy that you have for your characters and how that's reflected in the cinematography, the shots.
I think there's no, again, there's such, I'm sorry, I apologize, but there's no short answer to that. You know, I mean, it's when, if you're really looking at the film a couple times, I mean, it's when we're in a shot and I'm seeing above their heads as opposed to the top of the frame cutting right in here, and what that expression is. Paul Rubel did some fantastic editing in this, but it's how these choices of shots, there's nothing accidental. The compositions and the blocking is all worked out very much in advance, and how I block and what I shoot and what that environment is all a function of scene analysis. Here's what I want the scene to do. Here's its part, here's its component part. If it's the second to last scene at the end of Act 2, here's what it's supposed to be doing. And then how do I build that world and try and work to get that effect? How do I direct the actors? How, you know, what's the shooting style of it? Is the camera moving? Are we doing static cuts? But I mean, all the obvious stuff. But there is I mean, I love LA at night, and that's really obvious. So that infuses everything. So.
Well, we love you loving LA at night. Yeah, keep it right here.
I hope I'm not forcing too much of a reading on the film, but there's something about it that reminds me of classical Western, like High Noon. You know, it takes place over 24 hours. There's a good guy, a bad guy. There's a showdown at dawn. It's got the wide angle shots, the close-up. I'm just curious whether you were channeling the Western in any shape or form when you were shooting this film.
So the question is about whether or not the film is inspired by
Yeah, it's a
Western.
really interesting question about it. It's reminding you of High Noon. I think what's reminding you, the themology couldn't be more different than High Noon. Because High Noon is really about blacklisting. And one man standing up, whether that's Joe Losey or Waldo Salt or any of the Hollywood 10. But what was very interesting about your question is that the story structure of High Noon is extremely architectural. It really is, it's kind of a brilliantly composed piece of music, and the story structure is to be here. This story structure is also extremely architectural, and put it that way. It really moves to a certain cadence. There's a line you hear in the beginning, you hear the line again in the end. You know, there's an analogy about the guy who's riding around dead on the, on the metro line. The inversion of the two roles, and it's so that too is very structured. If you put this through put it this way, if you took this script and put it through some kind of a MRI or something and took a look at it, you could really see the bones of how each piece relates to every other piece, and it's very blueprinted, in other words.
I think we can take one or two more questions. You, I have your hand up really high. Yes, you. Yeah.
First of all, thanks for taking the time to be here. I know you're friendly with Alejandro González Iñárritu, and his most recent film, Bardo, the main character dies and floats around on the metro, just like in Collateral. Did he ever address that, or have either of you addressed that with one another? Just curious.
So the question is about Bardo and Iñárritu's film Bardo, and how the main character dies and floats around on the metro.
There's a similarity. I don't know the similarity. It's kind of just coincidental. There was a complaint from Ebert, who liked the film very much, that this was the sixth film he had seen which ends on some chase into the subway, but he liked this one.
Oh, Ebert complained about that?
Huh? Ebert complained about it. Ebert complained about it.
It's too much like Speed. Okay, one more question. Make it a good one. Who has the best question? It has to be very specific. Okay, in the back, waving your hands. It's better you go.
Could you speak up, please?
Okay, so the question is about the keep. Would you ever return to the keep?
No.
We gotta keep moving forward. Time moves forward. We gotta keep moving forward. Woo! Well, I think that's.
Another one more.
Okay, one more. You right here.
Hi, I just have a question. Like, did Tom Cruise have a say as to like what kind of gun he was gonna, like, his character was gonna carry around? Because he's with that the whole time. Like, oh, he's gonna have this kind of thing. And I'm just a dork about that stuff.
Okay, the question is if Tom Cruise picked his own gun.
No.
Okay, this person in the green jacket, you can ask a question. All right, the question is about what happens to Max after the movie.
Well, to be completely honest, I have absolutely no idea.
Ask Stuart.
I've gone through a life change. I don't plan to make Collateral 2. There's, if I was doing the end of the movie again, you wouldn't ever see Max, and You know, you wouldn't see Jamie and Jada. You would just be tracking with the train going away into the distance. Yeah.
All right. I think we're gonna end it here. Thank you so much.